Hi everybody, Sherry from Granny's Sewing Room stopping in to say hi, and I thought I'll try to pick up where I left off on my story, the little girl who stopped crying. And I don't quite sure where I left off, but what I'll do, I'll share a few more memories with you that I have as growing up and living in certain houses, and some of the better memories that I have, a few of my still harsh memories, but one of the harsh memories that I have, I was probably in first or second grade, and I don't know who I lived with, but I went to school and I was behind. I was behind all the kids, and I just couldn't catch up. And I remember the teacher being so mean to me because I wasn't with the other kids. I was so behind. And she had me sitting or standing next to her desk, and I don't remember what she was telling me, but ridiculing me in front of the class and telling me I could spell that word or something was on the blackboard, and I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. And I just remember being so humiliated and fearful that I fainted, and I don't know what happened from there, but ever since then, I'm not good at spelling, but I'm not good at speaking in front of people. I'm not good at large crowds. I'm not good at being put on in the limelight, or I don't like any of that. So I don't have a problem when it's just me and my sisters or people that I know. I don't have no problem being loud then with them, but you know, strangers, I don't have enough confidence. I'm fearful they'll put me in a situation that I don't know the answer to, or don't know how to spell something, or you know, I don't like that. I've worked hard to try to conquer that fear. I've done things to try to beat it, but it just sneaks back up on me, and I still get fearful at times. But so that was one memory. And then, you know, when I left the house I thought my dad came to rescue me, went and stayed with a lady, and she had two of my other siblings, a younger one and an older one. And she had about, I think, 5 kids of her own, daughters. And they were all living there. She was a single lady and real nice lady. Just, I loved it there. I loved it there. Her one daughter was my age, and in the mornings when the lady left for work, she would leave a big kiss mark on our cheek, you know, from her lipstick. And that was my excitement, waking up to find that kiss mark somewhere on my face. And her and her daughter, or me and her daughter, would kind of hunt for that, who had the biggest kiss mark, and that was pretty fun. One other time when I lived there, my sister and her daughters took me and the daughter that was my age, told us it was church time, and dressed us all up in these little formal gowns that we'd play dress up in. Dressed us up and had us marching through the snow up to church, and it was probably 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and the mother woke up and caught them, and they got in trouble. So that was kind of funny, you know, having us half asleep, walking to church, thinking it's dress up day at church, and we're dressed up and walking to church. So that was a funny memory. Another memory is we went to school, and we'd come home for lunch, and it was wintertime. Must be December. The Christmas tree was up. And we come in the house. I think I was the first one home, and I kept hearing a banging. And I'm thinking, what is this banging? You know, just a pounding on a wall. And I was scared to death. And so here comes my older sibling and my youngest sibling, and we kind of started investigating what that, you know, pounding was, and walked in the bedroom, and out of the closet was an arm hung in a suit jacket. You couldn't see the hand, you just seen the arm of the suit jacket waving like this, and a pounding, and oh my goodness, scared us to death. We had our shoes off, but we went darting out that door, through the snow. My youngest sibling did not run. That sibling went behind the Christmas tree to hide. So I remember running back in, grabbing that sibling and running out the door, and we went running to find the lady that we were living with, and it turned out to be her older daughter scaring us. So she got kind of a lot of trouble for that, but that was a funny memory, I thought. Sticks with me. And some other memories is that we lived in a house where, you know, well, we lived in a house where the guy used to like to try to peek at the girls, you know, peek and see. And it wasn't this lady's house, but kind of look in the cracks and watch them dress or take baths. And so that wasn't a good memory. So I was too young to be peeked at, thank goodness. But anyway, so when I left that lady's house, I ended up moving in with an aunt and uncle. And so I left them siblings, and I moved on. I think I was in probably third grade by the time I went to go live with this aunt and uncle, and that's where I stayed for the rest of my life until I was old enough to, you know, move on. But eventually my older sibling, one above me, came and lived with us. So she lived there too until she ran away. But then I would get to go on weekends. My oldest sister got married, so I would get to go visit her on weekends occasionally. Well, that's before my older sibling moved in with us at my aunt's house. But she and my youngest sibling lived with my oldest sister that went and got married, and at her mother-in-law's. So I'd get to go there on weekends occasionally, and it was pretty fun. My sister would take us downtown on the bus, and it was all decorated and pretty, and I can remember riding the bus and seeing how beautiful downtown was in the snow and all decorated for Christmas. I can remember her taking me to Goodwill, and we would buy clothes that I could play dress up in. I like to dress up, and so we'd buy the little formal dresses and play dress up. I get to do that. So I had fond memories of what I do have of my oldest sibling. And then, like I said, then my sibling moved in with me and my aunt and uncle on my father's side. And we lived there for a while. We'd get to go to one of my siblings, the second sister that got married, and would go there on weekends. And I got to stay there, and at least I was with my youngest sibling, and you know, but going home was always sad. It just broke my heart having to leave them there, and just every time I went, spent a weekend and went back there, it was just the hardest for my heart to just, you know, and crying did not help. Crying got me nowhere, and that's where I start realizing crying is just being weak. Crying, when I cry now, it's because I'm very angry. I'm very, very angry usually if I'm crying. And so I'm not a real crier. I'm not one of them women that cry when their husband, I don't even cry in front of my husband. I can't cry in front of people. So I'm not a crier anymore. Crying is not anything going to help me or get anything accomplished for me. So crying is not for me. So I don't like to cry. But anyway, we lived with an aunt and uncle, and I'm sure I have more memories, you know, that I'm not thinking of. But we lived with my aunt and uncle, and I lived there until I was 16, and I was probably in third grade or second grade when I moved in there. And I think my sister above me, my sibling above me, she was 16, 17 when she ran away. She ran away, and by this time my oldest sibling was living in California. And so she ran away, and she went to California. And, you know, I didn't have a bad life there, but I didn't, you didn't feel loved, or sometimes you just didn't feel wanted. And I don't believe it's because I wasn't loved or wanted. It was just because they had their own family and trying to do their, it's not easy taking on more kids that you didn't plan for. So, but, and I was left alone again. I had my cousins and stuff, but, and it was, they gave me a good life. Was it a loving life? There was no fighting or drinking or cussing or, they taught me the good ground rules, and probably why I am the way I am today. Want to clean house, cook dinner every night for a husband. They taught me what it was to be a mom and a woman, I believe. So, that was good for me. But I wanted to go too. My family was gone. I wanted my family. My heart wanted my family. And I had a boyfriend, and like I say, I was 16, and I got pregnant. I didn't get pregnant by accident. I got pregnant because I thought people back then got married and started a family, and that's what I wanted. I wanted my own family. I wanted to be around my siblings. I wanted to be around my family. So that's was my plan, and I had a beautiful baby. I just turned 17. We got married. Back then days, I was legally able to get married, but he wasn't. So we had to travel to another state in order to get married because he wasn't of age. He was older than me, but he couldn't get married legally. And so that's what we did after fighting for a while, his parents, and but we did, and I ended up moving from that house, and we didn't have nothing. I don't know a mind of a 16-year-old. They have all these dreams and beliefs, and they put the horse before the cart, and I didn't know how we were going to get all this, but we ended up having to move in with his parents, and good parents, good home. But there I was still away from my family, pregnant, still not having what I was looking for. So we eventually moved out, and he was a hard worker, very good man, good father. But I didn't. I wanted something different, I guess. I wanted to be around my family, And we did move out, and we did get our own place, got started there for a little while, and we struggled, he went to school to finish getting his high school diploma and worked, and I worked, and pregnant, and then we had the baby, and we struggled, and eventually was going to move back to his parents because we were struggling, and I wasn't going to go there. I went to my sister's house and got assistance and got my own place, and that was the beginning of my next horrible decision I ever made in my life. So thinking I was going to get on my own, get independent, do all this, and and then got into the party life, and shortly after, I wasn't even a year after, and I was introduced to a man that, he was 6 years older than me, but, I thought it was love. It was just, I was head over heels, and this is the direction I wanted to go, and he was wild, he kind of took control. That was probably not a good choice in my life. Those were one of the choices that I made, where I should have stayed with a guy, that wanted something in life and was good to me and treated me good and was a good father. But instead I chose a wild guy, a cheater, a beater, I chose what I was comfortable with. I chose what, he was into the drug scene and all of this. And eventually that's where I went, into his scene, into his world. And I did all that he did, and it was exciting because I couldn't get him, I couldn't tame him, I couldn't hang on to him, so I wanted it. You know, you always want what you can't have. Well, I finally got him, but it wasn't, you know, I was beat to a pulp half the time, guns to my head. My sisters would chase him down and beat him too for beat me up. I mean, I had black and blue eyes swelled shut. My nose has been broke. But I wanted this guy. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But you know, eventually I think it was, I don't know, about 10 years after the fact or something like that. He was going to go do 6 months for beating me up, and I found the Lord. I found while he was serving some time, I found the Lord. And best thing that happened to me. Best thing, you know. So this sad story has a beautiful silver lining. Things aren't perfect right now in my life, but I have Jesus to lean on. I know who my Savior is, and I know who loves me. And it is Jesus Christ, my Lord. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I found the Lord in 1986. And like I said, he was doing time. And it was kind of funny because I had a sibling that was going to church. And she was the strong-willed, loudmouth one. And, sorry, I love you. But she was changing. I thought, what is going on here? What is happening to my sister? You know, and I was still drinking. I was really an alcoholic at that time. I had to wake up, drink. I had to wake up, smoke marijuana. I had all these crutches to make all that, keep all that pain that I had. It kept it buried. So I had all these crutches, and I was addicted to alcohol, drugs, and marijuana. But here's my sister changing, and I thought, what is going on here? And she started going to this church, and I thought, no, I'm going to go and get her out of here, go see what's going on. And I went to that church that she was going to that was changing her. And that pastor started preaching, and I looked at my sister, I said, how dare you tell him about me? How dare you tell him what my life's about or what I'm going through? And she didn't. That was his sermon. And so I was pretty mad. And so I went back the following week, and he preached another episode of my life. And I thought, what, you know, and I was starting to get interested, but she swore she wasn't telling him anything. And I'll tell you, I sit in my house sometimes, and I would be drunk, and that pastor would come knock on my door, and he'd come in. I'd be so rude and so mouthy, and but he was persistent. He just kept coming back. And my heart almost wants to cry just because I thought, this pastor just did not give up on me. He kept coming back. Sorry. So by then I was kind of getting tired of the drinking and the smoking and the drugs and all that. And a friend of mine was talking about the 12-step program, which I kind of heard about it, and she gave me a book, and it was telling me you take your problem to the higher power. Now, I went to church a couple times, and higher power, well, I knew higher power did not mean a person, or, you know, higher power was God to me, because I did go to some church camps and do some church things when I was living with my aunt and stuff. So, and I did know, you know, about Jesus and all that, not personally or anything, but my higher power I knew to be the Lord. And now I started this church, and then my sister-in-law bought me a Bible. And when I opened that Bible, started reading it, I was reading like my life story. I was reading, it was so personal, it came alive to me. And anyway, so long story short, I started going to that church. I started having a lady from that church, love her to this day, coming, and coming to my home and discipling me, helping me walk through the steps, and and I accepted the Lord, but I kept wrestling with the Lord. I kept telling him, well, when am I going to be a Christian? When am I going to be a Christian? And I had this little voice saying, you are a Christian. You are. No, 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 I'm not. You got to tell me. And I can remember the day I woke up and I heard this voice said, today you are a Christian. And I thought, it was so real. It touched my heart so much. And did everything change right away? No, no. But you know what God did? God put me in this bubble. I could, it just felt like I was in this bubble, like a snow globe, and every billboard, every wall that someone scribbled on, it had something about Jesus on it. I mean, he was just putting it in my face every turn I went, If I turned the TV on or the radio on, there was something about the Lord. He just put me in this bubble, and he protected me, and I could feel his arms around me, and I could feel this love come into my heart, and it was nothing I've ever felt before. And I can remember because it was around Christmas time, and I thought, I was so willed up with love. I knew I glowed. I glowed because I had so much of Jesus in me. I didn't put the Bible down. I'd sit and read it. And I thought, I don't care if people even spit in my face today. I'm just going to tell them Jesus loves you. I mean, that's how much love I had of the Lord. Wish I could be there today, but the only reason I'm not is my own fault, my own lack of staying close to him, my own problem of moving away and getting back into the routine of regular life instead of trying to stay in the Spirit. And but anyway, I'll leave it here, and I will pick it back up. I'm sorry my story is probably jumping and bouncing, and I hope it makes sense to everybody. And I hope it's interesting. And the purpose of my story is for my kids and grandkids, to leave them something. And the most important thing I want to leave with them and everyone is that even though we start out with bad beginnings, we don't ever have to have a bad ending. If you come to know the Lord, it's even in the bad days, it's good days. So, all right, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. Has anyone told you you're special today? If not, let me be the first, because we are in God's eyes. Have a great day. God bless, and I'll talk to you all soon. I'll try to share my story maybe once a month, or, it's emotional for me. So it takes a lot for me to sit down in front of a camera and just share. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay, bye-bye.